Hey guys, it's Christine, also known as IvyWinter. Thank you for joining me for another Disney Book Club video. So we have all hopefully wrapped up or near wrapping up Magic Journey, my fantastical Walt Disney Imagineering career by Kevin P. Rafferty, who was an Imagineer. And I have a lot of thoughts on this book. First of all, thank you for everyone who voted for the book for this month. This one won by many, many, many votes. I think a lot of people were really eager to dig in. I feel like Imagineering is always super interesting. Every Imagineering book has similar experiences, yet different perspectives, and it's all like really interesting stuff. And so this was a really great read. If you didn't read this book, or if you're ready for the next book is going to be Galaxy's Edge, Black Spire. It is a Star Wars book that fills in the backstory of Galaxy's Edge, Bat2, Black Spire Outpost, the million names that it has. So that book actually came out quite a bit ago, before the land even opened in California. I have myself not read it. I own it actually, and I just haven't read it yet. It seems a lot of you guys want to, so the next book will be that book, which is fiction. We've done 2 nonfiction so far. We'll be doing a fictional one soon. The plan for that is to start that around the beginning of February. So you've got about 2 weeks to pick the book up, and also a 2-week break between books if you're following along every month. Now, on to the book review. So, my initial thoughts when starting this book and really getting through even the first couple of chapters is, man, it is dense. I mean dense in terms of the way he writes, the information that's in here, how much is this kind of packed into each chapter. I had the hardcover, so for those who might have been reading on Kindle, the design is actually really neat and interesting. Each chapter is like this little note, kind of like in Imagineering when they would like put notes and ideas up, and then this cool little like bunch of images of rides that he's worked on. So everything from a little bit of Her Magic to Mickey Minnie Runaway Railway, to Cars Land. I mean, that's a pretty neat personal thing that he has in there. But as you can see, just looking at the words here, man, this was a dense book, and it took me a bit longer to get through than I was expecting. While I feel like we discussed Bob Iger's book, A Ride of a Lifetime, last time, and we said, he could have used some editors here and there in terms of referring to people, and that was a little confusing and this and that. It was still an easy read in terms of the flow, and I was able to get through it pretty quickly. It took me quite a lot of effort to read this book, not because it wasn't written well, it was just jam-packed. I mean, we're talking blocks of paragraphs of things. The way that he writes is very anecdotal. It's like someone telling you the story. It's like if I sat down with my grandpa or an uncle and they just told me the story of how they were an Imagineer. That's how it's down on paper, which can be tough because it does come off as almost like conversational and goes off in different paths in that sort of way, where he'll be talking about something and then he'll mention a person and he'll divert over here and talk about something that happened in the future with this person, and then come back and then divert again to a different ride or idea or what have you. And so it's almost like a stream of consciousness of like what he's talking about, what it makes him think about. He kind of like goes over there and digresses and then kind of comes back to it, so that can be a lot. Another thing that was kind of weird for me that I noticed is he'll go back and forth between both ragging on himself and patting himself on the back for things, which I think was his way of trying to balance those two things. Like, he talks about being in the Imagineering building, and the first time he ever speaks to Marty Sklar is accidentally stepping on some artwork. And Marty came over and kind of like made a big to-do about it. And he's like, oh my gosh, and I'm so stupid, and I'm so embarrassed that I did that, and oh, I just thought I was gonna get fired. Turns out he and Marty become really good friends later, which is really neat. But then he'll go on and be like, oh, I used to play pranks where I connected people by phone together. One of those things where you could dial one, dial the other. They don't know who dialed who, so they think the other person called them. And he was like, oh, it was a funny prank, but also I feel like it got a lot done with the Epcot project because I connected people who were working on it together and hadn't just called each other, and then they were able to hash things out. So it was kind of a weird, I don't know, back and forth almost of like, oh my gosh, I made such dumb mistakes, I should be fired, and then look at all the cool things I did that like pushed things forward. I think again, he's trying to balance it out. He's not trying to be too self-congratulatory. He's not trying to be too self-deprecating, but it just was weird. It was like being on a seesaw. What I did really love about this book, and I'm not always keen on like things being added in terms of photos and things like that, but I actually really liked it in this case. He has all these notes that he had from Marty throughout his time there, which obviously he kept and like really treasures. He has photos of concept art. He has photos of himself on the job, and it's nicely interspersed where it's not too much, and I feel like it actually did add a lot to what he was describing and talking about. So I really, really like that, and to be able to see those personal notes is like amazing. It's kind of a peek into Imagineering and the whole dichotomy that I thought was neat, and that was probably my favorite part. It was interesting to read about the rides that he worked on, don't get me wrong, but I think partly because of his ability to kind of weave around in stories, it was a little hard to focus on, but I think my favorite part was actually just hearing about what happened in the hallways of Imagineering and that perspective, and then playing pranks on each other and the relationships he formed and the things that he learned. And I think that is really valuable in this book. It's like an insight into a world that a lot of us don't get to see, much more than just this is how we built a ride, because I think a lot of Imagineering books focus on that, and they're great, don't get me wrong. I have the one in the mountains, you know, focuses on all the mountains and the parks and how they were built, and that's fascinating to me, but I think being able to see the actual relationships and structure of the people behind these rides was the best part about this book. You're not gonna get any sort of dirt or anything like that. In fact, I would say that he is more of an overall positive book than, say, even Bob Iger. I mean, Bob Iger was very honest about his relationship with Michael Eisner, for example, both the positives and the negatives, right? He really talked about things, I think he tried to talk about them in as realistic of a perspective, whereas this is just very, very positive, so you're not gonna get any sort of dirt or dishing on anything. But I mean, the man's had a career at Disney for a very long time. He wouldn't really want to be throwing people under the bus or burning any bridges or anything like that. That said, you can tell that he really, really loved working for Disney. It shines through and through for sure in this book, and I think that's something that I really appreciated. I think the love is real. I don't think it's like a fake or I'm just trying to talk about the good stuff. You can tell that he really cherished his time there, and it's one of those stories where he did start, you know, at the bottom and worked his way up to Imagineering, and I think those are stories that are important for people to hear who are considering a job like this or another higher up job at Disney, to not be discouraged, and that starting from the bottom is sometimes the way in. Overall, I'm gonna give this book a solid B, maybe leaning a little towards a B-. And the reason I say that is just because of the way that it's written. Like I said, it can be a little bit of a slog. It's a lot of information to be taking in at once. And I do think that there could have been a better way that all of this was kind of put together structurally. And that really, it does kind of affect my rating greatly, because if I have a hard time reading a book, I don't care how great the content is, it really takes away from my experience. So I'm giving it around, we'll give it a solid B. I think it's really great though, if you're someone who's interested in Imagineering or pursuing a career in Imagineering, this is definitely a really great book. So what I want to do is what I did last time, and that is to give away the copy of my book, because now that I've read it, I don't need it. So let me know in the comments below, why do you want to read this book, or who would you give it to if you got it? That's all you need to do, and be a subscriber. Those are the only two requirements, and I will randomly pick someone by next week, so probably next Wednesday. I will leave you a response to your comment. This is really important because last time I had to pick a second winner because the person didn't get back to me. So I will leave you a response to your comment. Please look out for that so that you can email me and let me know your address and all that good stuff. I wasn't able to get the information from the first winner last time, so we had to pick a second winner. So if you win and I comment and it takes you over a week to get back to me, I might have to pick someone else. So please, please keep an eye out. If you like this video, then like it. If you like me, you should subscribe. I make videos every single week. Again, next month's book is going to be Black Spire. I will put a link down below. It is a affiliate link. You don't have to buy it through there, but if you do, I'd be really grateful because that does give me a little something to help continue running this channel. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see some new people in the book club next month, and I'm excited to dive into Batu. Again, thanks for watching. Have a great rest of the day. Bye.